Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Familiar Protocol by Renee George, narrated by Anne Sprinkle. Chapter 1. Oh my goddess! If there's a witch heaven, this must be what it tastes like. My eyes rolled back as the sweet confection of lemon buttercream and raspberry filling between 6 layers of moist vanilla sponge lit up my taste buds like cheap Roman candles on the 4th of July. Tizzy, my flying squirrel familiar, and I had been trying different flavors of cake since 3 o'clock. It was now 4:15. Luckily, one of the perks of being a witch was not gaining weight, which is a good thing, considering I'd easily put away 20 million bazillion calories, all sugar and fat. I couldn't think of a better way to spend a Sunday afternoon.
Doorknobs and broomsticks, Haze. Do I need to book a room so you can be alone with the cake?
Tiz asked. She dragged her tiny clawed finger through the frosting and put it to her lips. Her big brown eyes brightened as she took another swipe.
I'll make that a room for 3. Wow, that is orgasmic.
Uh-huh, I mumbled through my 5th bite. Then I realized that she'd said a room for 3. Ew, I do not want to think about you and... I waved my hand at her.
And orgasms?
Tizzy tried a little chunk of the sponge.
Yum!
Her long, dark brown eyelashes fluttered as she savored the moment. After, she opened her eyes and gave me a cross look.
Don't be a child, Haze. I've got a girlfriend now. You know,
I put a buttercream frosted fingertip to her lips. Not another word. Blech. I can't hear about you and lumpy pits without triggering my gag reflex.
Lupisha,
Tizzy said, her speech unhindered by my finger barrier. You say potato, I say loopy-poopy, I teased. It wouldn't be so bad, Tizzy being in love, if her feline girlfriend wasn't so rude to me all the time. To make matters even more uncomfortable, we all shared a home. Ever since that Lupisha's witch had managed to get herself jailed after attempting a dangerous ritual to wake up old magic over Halloween, the cat had been living with us. Even so, I loved our new house. My bear-shifter fiancé, Ford Baylor, and I had only been able to purchase the house because of an unfortunate murder related to some old magic that nearly killed the entire town of Paradise Falls. Maybe we'd rushed into signing on the dotted line, though. Ford had been a little distant the past 3 weeks, and whenever I asked him if anything was wrong, he'd give me some quick answer about being fine, then change the subject. I sighed. Maybe he was having regrets.
What's with the heavy sigh?
Tizzy had laid down on her stomach in front of her hot cocoa thimble cup, her little fists balled up under her chin.
You worried Ford has lost that loving feeling?
A, my sigh had nothing to do with Ford, I lied, and B, mind your own business. I adored my hunka-hunka burning bear man love. He made my knees knock, my knickers twist, and my knick-knack paddywhack. He certainly knew how to give a witch a bone, which made his actions of late even more worrying.
Yuck, Haze. Just yuck.
Tizzy's expression was pure repulsion.
If you remember, I can read your mind now.
She clicked her teeth.
And there's no way Winnie the Pooh doesn't love the crap out of you. He is hooked, lined, and stinkered.
Cripes, I keep forgetting she could read my thoughts when she wanted to now. Another side effect of having Lupa Tootie in our lives. I still hadn't figured out a way to block her access, but she could control when she heard me and when she didn't. I pointed my fork at her. Stop looking inside my head.
If you won't talk to me, then I have no choice.
Tizzy swished her tail back and forth.
Besides, she said, it's not like I have to read your mind. I'm not blind after all. I see the tension between the two of you. So thick I can cut it with my fingernail.
She held up a hot pink, neatly manicured claw.
Is that why I'm here eating cake with you instead of Ford?
I took another bite. This time, the lemon tasted as sour as my darkening mood. No. Maybe. You're here because you invited yourself along and Ford had to work.
You're the boss, Haze. It says so on your office door. Chief of Police.
She shook her head and puffed her furry cheeks out.
You need to get a hold of your man before he hightails it back to his cave in the deep woods.
Ford has never lived in a cave.
I'm just saying, you have to communicate, she enunciated. It's the only way to make a relationship work.
And what suddenly makes you a relationship expert?
Lupisha and I are coming up on 4 blissful months.
More like 3 and some change, I pointed out. That doesn't make you an expert. Besides, cats are petty and can't be trusted. That's a terrible combo when you're trying to make a relationship work. Tizzy gasped and clutched her chest.
I never thought I'd say this, Haze, but you're a racist.
Am not. I crossed my arms. Maybe a speciesist, if that's even a thing, but I believe every person is created equal. Lulu Pussy Galore is not a person. Tizzy's mouth drooped into a frown and her eyes narrowed.
So what does that make me then?
Uh-oh. I'm so sorry, Tiz. I didn't mean...
I understand now. To you, I'm a freaking pet, right? I'm property. An item you use to enhance your magic and nothing more. You think you are the more important of the two of us in this friendship. Scratch that, partnership, because we ain't friends anymore, Hazel Kinsey.
Come on now, don't be like that. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. This was going to take more than a day spa pass and a gift certificate to the coffee shop to fix. I might actually have to be nice to... Lupisha is so nice to you, but she's so mean to me, I said. It was a weak defense, but the only one I had.
You said her name right.
Tizzy sat back on her hind legs.
That's a start. You may not like her, Haze, but I love her.
And I love Ford. That doesn't stop you from making fun of him, calling him names like Fozzie, Teddy, and Winnie the Pooh all the time. I didn't have any real moral high ground, but I felt like the metaphorical upper hand ball had landed in my court. If you stop talking crap about my boyfriend, I'll stop talking crap about your girlfriend. Her chest froze for a few seconds as she held her breath, paused in thought. She tapped her cheek and shook her head.
I can't. I just can't do it. Baloo gives me too much ammunition to pass up.
Ha ha, very funny. She giggled, making a noise that sounded like chittering.
It really is. I have 1,000,000 of them.
My phone rang. I yanked it out of my purse, eager to end the conversation. Chief Kinsey, I answered. Haze, said a deep voice that made my heart race and witchy bits shiver. It was Ford. I pulled the phone away from my ear. The number wasn't familiar. Whose phone was he calling on? Ford, I said when I put the phone back to my ear. What's wrong with your phone? I heard him sigh heavily before he said, It fell in the water. What water? Had he gone out to the lake? It was near our new place, but it still seemed weird. Maybe he'd been on a call out there. Did you have to go in after a rogue beaver shifter? It's a long story. I've got time. I drew a heart in the cake crumbs on my plate. Next, I drew a slash through it. Tizzy's eyes widened. I shook my head at her. Was it work? Is there something I should know about? A dead body? I asked. No, no body, Ford said. Cool, then what's up? He was quiet for a second, then said, I need to talk to you later today. Okay. Someone telling you they needed to talk was never a good sign. Damn it, why couldn't it have been a body? Tizzy jumped up, her eyes widening.
Uh-oh,
she said.
What?
I mouthed.
Gotta go, Haze. See you at home.
And she poofed out. Dang it. It was another power she'd gained as a result of living with that crabby cat. Haze, you still there? I'm here, I told Ford. You sound like you have bad news. Do you have bad news? If so, just say it. Rip it off like a bloody bandage. Not over the phone. Son of a witch, it was bad news. The door opened to the bakery, and inside walked a procession of felines. I hissed into the phone. 2 tabbies, a Burmese, a British Shorthair, a Siamese, and 2 Bombay cats walked into the bakery. Is this the beginning of a joke? He sounded amused. That was a good sign, right? No, I said, not a joke. The mixed bag of pussycats surrounded my table, each one of them casting a judgmental glare at me. I put my hand over my mouth and the receiver. I'm going to have to call you later. But, Haze, I'm sorry, Ford. I'll make it up to you later. Remember the red crotchless panties? I hung up on him before he could answer. Disgusting, the Siamese cat said, its voice decidedly male. It had the classic creamy tan and black markings of its breed. Hazel Kinsey, you are hereby summoned. For what? And who the hell are you to summon me? Cats were so freaking bossy. Another reason I didn't like Loogie Butt. We are the High Familiar Clowder, the British Shorthair with a British accent answered. Isn't that soup? Not chowder, said the black Bombay on the right of me. You really are a stupid witch. Hey, I pointed at the smug black cat. Sticks and stones will break your bones when I pick them up and beat you with them. He took a step back. You and your familiar are hereby charged with illegally acquiring an unregistered familiar. Do you deny these charges? I most certainly do. I had no idea what these kiddies were going on about. Who are you again? The High Familiar Right, clam chowder. I stood up. The 7 of them moved in like a well-oiled military unit, surrounding my fuzzy winter boots. Back off, gatos. I'm the chief in this town, and I'll haul you in for invasion of personal space. That's not a thing, one of the tabbies said. Hey, buddy. I put an indignant hand on my hip. I make the laws around here. I was beginning to think Tizzy had seen this coming, and that's why she skedaddled. I was going to kill her when I got home.
You only enforce the laws, you can't make them.
The voice behind the words was shrill and high-pitched. I groaned. Tanya freaking Geller. The town medical examiner in a general pain in my booty. Oh, and she was dating my dad. Bile rose in my throat when I saw her standing in the doorway on the arm of the aforementioned father. Dad, I nodded to my old man, who really looked anything but old. Again, perks of being a witch, or a warlock in his case. He looked young enough to be my brother, which meant that even though Tanya was my age, they really did make a nice-looking couple. I looked at Tanya again. I don't need any help from you. Balderdash, my father said. Balderdash to you, too, I told him. The Burmese said, I'm Balderdash, you ignorant witch. I smirked. At least my name isn't dumb. My father spoke, intervening before I could step in it again. What is the HFC doing in Paradise Falls? Yeah, I gave a quick nod. What are you all doing here? We've come to retrieve and rehabilitate Tisiphone and Lupisha. The black cat on the right of me rubbed his body against my boot. You will be assigned a new familiar until further notice. Chapter 2. You have got to be kidding me. I stared at the big-eared, hairless, pink-skinned cat sitting on the wooden altar and almost crapped myself. My father had moved our party to the Witch Shifter Coalition building. The 7 cats that made up the familiar high mucky mucks sat in the chairs usually reserved for the members. The naked monstrosity gave me a bored look. I pointed at it. "What am I supposed to do with this little mutant?" "Lonnie is your new familiar," Balderdash said. I'd been introduced to the entire Clowder now, and they all bore ridiculous names. The 2 Bombay black cats were Deva and Devi. The gray British Shorthair was Queenie, and the Siamese was named Pluto. The tabbies were John and Jane, which just sounded like aliases to me. Behind them were 4 witches, 2 blondes and 2, along with 3 warlocks, 1 with brown hair, 1 with black hair, and 1 was a sandy blonde. They were lined up girl-boy-girl style, and they all stared in my direction, but almost as if they were looking through me, not at me. They affected an air of superiority, status quo for their kind, but what really caught my attention was the pulse of power emanating from them as a group. My creepometer pinged in the red, but I had bigger problems at the moment than the Stepford witches and warlocks. "I don't need a new familiar. I have a perfectly good squirrel. And why are only cat familiars represented here?" I couldn't believe Tizzy called me a bigot. It seemed like familiars had their own hierarchy based on form. "Tisiphone is under investigation. Her association with you has been less than an ideal partnership. According to Regulation 5016B, a familiar shall at all times promote a healthy use of sound magic for his or her witch." "And what makes you think she doesn't?" "We have had several complaints filed," Devi said, "like almost burning a hole through the Earth's core with hot coffee, or using magic during a magic ban at Halloween." "Someone had been murdered," I said in my defense. Devi's green eyes glowed with condemnation. "We take these complaints seriously." I cast an accusing glare at Tanya. The red-headed witch shook her head and threw up her hands. "It wasn't me." "Uh-huh." "It doesn't matter who informed us of the matter, Miss Kinsey. The point is, we believe that Tisiphone has crossed the line between witch and familiar with another familiar. She has developed a bond with the unregistered Lupisha that borders on unprecedented and immoral." "Homophobes!" I cried out. "Tizzy is allowed to be with who she wants. Love is love, you baboonish bags of wind." The female tabby Jane stood up on all 4 paws. "You misunderstand us, Miss Kinsey. We could care less if Tisiphone has relations with Lupisha. The line she crossed is mystical and magical, not physical. Lupisha has bonded with her." I must have looked as dumbfounded as I felt, because John said, "Lupisha has become Tisiphone's familiar. She is developing powers she shouldn't have as a result." "No effing way." I shook my head. "I thought a familiar couldn't be bonded to 2 witches, or a witch and a squirrel in this case. How is that even possible?" Romy Quinn, Lupisha's witch, had been part of a coven that had accidentally almost unleashed hell on Paradise Falls. She, along with her cohort Jenny Weaver, the only 2 of the coven to survive, had been locked away by my grandmother, the Grand Inquisitor Clementine Battles, in the maximum security magical prison for rogue witches. Lupisha shouldn't have been able to magically bond with a turnip. "Romy Quinn is her witch, not Tiz." "Romy Quinn is dead." Deva, the male black cat, leaned forward, his gaze condescending and cold. I restrained my rising temper and asked, "How did she die?" "The conditions of her death are not part of the scope of our investigation. Some kind of accident in prison," Devi, the female Bombay, replied. "But we're not here because of Romy Quinn. That is for the Grand Inquisitor's people to investigate." Our only concern is the illegal, familiar behavior that has come to pass here in Paradise Falls. Look, it's not like we subscribe to Incarcerated Witch Daily News. How in the name of the goddess could Tiz know that Lou Diamond Furface was no longer bound to her witch? Who? Queenie asked. My father answered, She means Lupicia. The hairless wonder, who'd been quiet up until that point, said, I am your familiar now, Witch Hazel. Shut up, Lonnie. I gave the pink beast a warning glare. Tizzy is my familiar, period, end of it. You don't get to decide for me. Actually, the flat-faced British short-hair Queenie produced a piece of paper. She wiggled her whiskers, and the document appeared in my hand. She had an uppity British voice, like Maggie Smith on Downton Abbey or Harry Potter, or really any movie or show Maggie Smith played in. If you'll see subsection 4AE, Article 31, the 6th clause, you will note that it is completely at the discretion of the HFC where a familiar is assigned, and completely at our pleasure if we decide to reassign said familiar. In other words, right now there is a chance we may rehabilitate Tisiphone and give her a new witch, but if you continue to fight us, we might not reassign her at all. Queenie's puckering face reminded me of a butthole, one I wanted to shoot. It made me wish I carried a gun off duty. I balled my hands into fists. Which means what exactly? My father stepped forward, his tone soft and low. She will be absorbed into the between. My temperature went from a comfortable 98.6 to 3,000 degrees in 2 seconds flat, or at least it felt like it. Granted, my clothes hadn't burned off my body, but my anger felt scorching. If I could have, I would have shot laser beams from my eyes at every single cat, witch, and warlock in the room. I would have missed my dad eventually, but not today. This is ridiculous. Tizzy deserves a chance to defend herself. Isn't there some rule in your enormous, ridiculous rule book about that? She didn't try to acquire Lou Harry Pitts as her familiar to use. She just fell in love. How could she know the damn cat's witch would die? There has to be a concession somewhere for that. The tabby Jane jumped down to the floor and made her way to the altar. She nested on top of the gazillion-year-old spellbook that rested in the center. She gazed from Lonnie the hairless wonder to me. You will turn Tisiphone and Lupicia over to the HFC immediately, and you will accept Lonnie as your new familiar. Or what? She licked her paw and dragged it over her ear and down her face. She actually did it several times in an effort that made her look extremely bored by my panic and pain. This kind of behavior was exactly the reason I disliked cat familiars. So superior and smug. Queenie, in her blandest, most patronizing Great Dame tone, answered, Or you will be stripped of a familiar altogether. You know what they call a witch without a familiar? A muggle, I said. My father gasped. Tanya Geller blanched. Pluto, the Siamese male, laughed. There was hope for Pluto. They are called humans, you silly, self-destructive witch. Enjoy your mortality. I tried to hold my composure, but the rise of power in the room as the witches and warlocks began to chant brought me to my knees. Stop! My father shouted. Peripherally, I saw him drop to his knees as their power took him down as well. What are you doing to me? My chest hurt as the pressure of their magic thickened the air. Stand up, Lonnie said. His pinched and whiny voice made my teeth hurt. I can't, I said through gritted teeth. If you reach out to me with your power, I can help you. He held out his paw. His nails were sharp, but he had no style, not like Tizzy. No, I grated out through clenched teeth. Never. Fine, Balderdash said. He meowed really loudly. It sounded more like a cry for help than a rallying cry, but the choking magic dissipated instantly. I gasped, hungry for air. I'll never take another familiar. We'll see, Balderdash said. After a few days without magic, you may be singing another tune. You can't do that, my dad said. That's not in your purview. The Grand Inquisitor... Balderdash cut him off with a high-pitched mew. Oh, we know all about your ties to the Grand Inquisitor, but not even your close familial bonds with her can stop us from fulfilling our duty. Subsection 437, Article D, Clause A, Second Addendum, the HFC may limit or neutralize a witch's power for 72 hours in order to investigate a complaint. At least when I hold someone in jail, I read them their rights first. I got to my feet, stumbling as a wave of emptiness washed through me. Had they really stripped me of my powers? Was it even possible? I'd spent so many years trying not to use magic, but the last several months, I'd really started to embrace that part of myself I'd denied for so long. Using minor spells for simple tasks had become like second nature. Besides, I hated cleaning the house. Well, anything domestic. Magic had become my bitch. I stared at the 7 HFC members and Lonnie, matching their glare with my own. You won't get away with this, I told them. Queenie jumped down from her chair. Yes, we will. You tell Tisiphone when you see her that her fate will be worse than she ever imagined if she doesn't turn herself in. She has about as much time as you do. You have 3 days, Hazel Kinsey. Tisiphone will either turn herself in or you will lose your powers forever. The word forever echoed through the room as the rest of the cats followed Queenie out of the chamber. Once they'd left, I shuffled over to the nearest coalition chair and slumped into the seat. That was very dramatic, Tanya supplied. Scary, my dad added. Messed up, I said. But yeah, all of the above. Are you really human now? Tanya asked. I don't know. I think so. Goosebumps rose on the surface of my arms as the cooler temperature in the room chilled me. Warmth in the air, come to me, heat and comfort, so mote it be. My father waited, his eyes wide and expectant. I shook my head. Nothing. I'm still cold. He sauntered over to me, worry plain on his face. He put his arm around my shoulder. I'm sorry this is happening to you and Tizzy, sweetheart. Dad, I choked on a sob caught in my throat. I can't. I need Tiz. I know, he said. He stroked my hair. I know. What about grandmother? I asked him. She can help, right? I gazed up at him, but hope died inside me. Dad shook his head. She won't get involved. The familiars coexist with the witch community symbiotically. She won't risk the Clowder's ire. Not even for you. I stood up and started pacing. What's the use of having a grandmother who is large and in charge if she can't pull some strings for her family? My dad raised a brow. She arrested me, her son, and put me in jail for 17 years. I grimaced as I stopped in front of him. Good point. We can fix this, right, Dad? His expression was bleak. We can try. He put his arms around me, and I sagged against him. I want to go home, I told him. Tanya smoothed her long, red, bouncy hair, then fluffed up the ends. She put her hand...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?